You're welcome to Twilight on CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzaka in Yaoundé. Today we shall be looking at the 38 years of Paul Biya's presidency and asking ourselves the reason Cameroonians have to celebrate. We shall also be looking at expectations, especially from the youths. And to talk about this historic event in the life of Cameroon is Professor Elvis Ngole, political scientist and director of the CPDM Academy. He shall be joined by Anong Jacob, who is a political analyst, and Tayu Innocent, deputy mayor of Nkum in the Northwest region. That is what we have for you after the news with Emanuela Monet. Good evening, Emanuela.
Good evening.
Christian Cardinal Tumi has been released after he was kidnapped yesterday by separatists in the Northwest region.
Exactly, Edwin. Renowned prelate Christian Cardinal Tumi, Archbishop Emeritus of Douala, is said to have been released by his abductors. He was kidnapped yesterday evening alongside the fawn of Mso, His Royal Majesty Nsem Binglo, who is still missing. The two and several others are said to have been kidnapped in Babisi, Northwest region of Cameroon, as Cardinal Tumi was accompanying the fawn back to Kumbo, which he had left over a year ago. No one has claimed responsibility for the abductions, but many hold that separatists are behind their disappearance. We are probing the event and we will bring you more in subsequent news editions. Cameroonians are commemorating the 38th anniversary of the accession to power of His Excellency Paul Biya this Friday, 6th November 2020. Several events are taking place across the national territory and abroad in support of the new impetus under the impulsion of the President of the Republic through his policies. Yves Fomusos reports.
38 years of being in power, President Paul Biya's strength has been seen in several political, economic, social and cultural achievements. Cameroon has become a heaven of peace and national unity, an undeniable truth. Democracy is progressing, as was seen in the legislative and municipal elections, which took place in an atmosphere of calm and serenity, a measure of the political maturity, while elsewhere on the continent, these consultations sometimes resort to violence. The fight against the misuse of public funds is continuing with ferocity. In the economic domain, the constant growth observed these past years, with more than 4% growth in 2019, augurs for better days to come for the well-being of the population, which is the main preoccupation of the head of state. Several major projects are either completed or pending realization. The deep sea port in Kribi, hydroelectricity project in Memveli, Lompanga, Mekin, gas project at Lokbaba in Douala, the Kribi thermal station, the Yaoundé-Douala expressway, and yet others are soon to begin. While challenges abound, the overall trend of the New Deal has been growth.
One of the commercial activities that stands out at the Avenue Kennedy neighborhood in Yaoundé is the sales of the portrait of the head of state, especially on a day like this when the nation celebrates 38 years of President Paul Biya's accession to power. Clarence Ngay was at the commercial hub and tells us how trade is moving.
This is Avenue Kennedy, found at the heart of Yaoundé. Despite the fact that it is popularly known for its sales of telephones and other electronic gadgets, the sale of portraits of the President of the Republic is another lucrative business in this part of the city. These well-designed pieces of art are sold depending on the kind of event. We buy from photo studios when they are already made. We have effigies for state events and other ceremonies. These portraits are sold in different prices. The prices vary from 7,000 to 100,000 francs depending on the quality. The buyers of these are mostly government officials and private economic operators who place them on the walls of their offices. They are also projected on the walls of public structures such as the Yaoundé Conference Center, the Yaoundé Multipurpose Sports Complex, government ministries, just to name a few. On a day like this, of which Cameroonians celebrate the head of state's 38 years at the helm of the state, dealers of this trade say it is usually a moment of huge turnover with a rise in their clientele. They say there are particular periods when the business is booming, that is, during big celebrations like the National Day celebration, the anniversary of the CPDM party, and the celebration of President Paul Biya's ascension to power, among others.
The New Deal government is 38 years old today, and in 38 years, the head of state has made several outings that have marked the lives of Cameroonians. Still engraved in their memories are expressions like apprenti sorcier, me voici donc à Douala, rendez-vous dans 20 ans, and lots more. They are used by lots of Cameroonians in their daily conversations, as Beatrice Ngum reports.
Un seul mot, continuer.
Expressions like these are many and attributed to one man, Paul Biya. But today they are widely used. Some Cameroonians say a majority of the phrases were made for a given context.
Les apprentis sorciers.
When he said les apprentis sorciers, it was not intended to insult compatriots, but to bring them to understand the importance of promoting peace.
In 38 years of power, at each programmed outing, President Paul Biya has left the public with a take-home phrase.
The expression the head of state made that marked me is les petits partis politiques.
The mythic phrase rendezvous dans 20 ans still holds today, just like
quand il est allé à Douala, il a dit me voici donc à Douala.
When he went to Douala, he said, me voici donc à Douala. It was really deep because the country was going through a crisis. People were saying that he will not go to Douala, but he went there with a strong message.
Other popular expressions do exist, like ne dure pas au pouvoir qui veut, mais qui peut. Tant que Yaoundé respire, le Cameroun vit, and you can name the rest.
And on to something else, the Ngwon Festival has not held this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but the Cameroonian government has decided to make the show a national patrimony, as you tell us, Romeo Kenny.
Via Sonja and Kwalem are some prominent dances of the Ngwon Festival of the Bamoons. The popular cultural rendezvous, organized every after 2 years in Fumban, did not hold this year due to the prevailing pandemic, but this hasn't hindered government's goodwill to make the show a national patrimony.
So we are set, and that's why you see all those who are going to intervene, they are there. Cameroon submitted the Ngwon Cultural Festival element. It is within the UNESCO 2003 Convention on the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. The Ngwon Festival it centers around the Sultan, the king of the Bamoun.
The rehearsals at the Yaoundé Conference Center permitted sons and daughters of the Noon Division to commune and reignite once again with their rich cultural values.
They have to do everything that our culture did not die. We have to sing every song of Bamoun people.
The official ceremony to launch the information and awareness campaign related to the candidature of the Ngwon as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity will hold this Saturday.
Staff of the Cameroon Radio Television CRTV have paid professional tributes to Mireille Lambeau, journalist at the CRTV national station who died last October 27, 2020. During a special ceremony at the national station chaired by CRTV's Charles Ndongo, colleagues described the late Mireille Lambeau as a true symbol of humility, assiduity, and hard work. Baldwin Sama reports.
Her final journey to the world beyond her last stop at the CRTV national station, where for several years she worked as a news presenter. Colleagues and friends, emotionally touched, specially welcomed the mortal remains of Mireille Lambeau. During a brief ceremony to pay tribute at the national station, attended by many CRTV workers, friends of the deceased and family members, the different eulogies described the one fondly called Mimi as humble, assiduous, and talented throughout her career. CRTV's Director General Charles Ndongo described Mirelle Lambeau as a true professional throughout her stay with CRTV.
I still remember the soft voice on radio. I still remember the beautiful face on the 7:30 TV newscast with a comportment and a deployment that attracted millions of viewers and listeners.
Her last newscast presented on radio was aired alongside a TV documentary on her works at CRTV. The impressive turnout both at the national station and the mortuary of the Jongolo Hospital this Thursday simply confirms the love CRTV and her friends have for this ever-smiling lady whose mortal remains left the CRTV's national station for the last time, leaving many colleagues in tears and pain as Mirelle Lambeau dies at 48 and will be laid to rest this Saturday in Bacham in the west region of Cameroon.
May her soul rest in peace. Moki, it's on this sad note that we call it quits on this edition of the news.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you.
Let's have a break, and when we come back, we shall go to the northwest region where Christian Cardinal Tumi has been freed.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Reports from the northwest region indicate that Christian Cardinal Tumi has regained his freedom after he was abducted in the locality of Babisi yesterday by still-to-be-identified gunmen. The population is suspecting that separatist fighters kidnapped the cardinal and the founder of Simbinglo, who was returning to his palace after several years, or about 2 years he spent outside. Our reporter Winston Lepguy is standing by on the line to Bamenda. Winston, good evening. Hello, Winston Lepka.
Good evening, Moki.
Yeah. Winston, what is the latest concerning Cardinal Tumi and the founder of Simbinglo?
Yes, what I got from the divisional officer from Babisi is Sambe Male Enongene, with whom I spoke about an hour ago. He said Cardinal Tumi was released about some 4 hours ago. He was picked up at Baba 1, released and accompanied to Kumbo by some religious personalities. But as of now, nothing is known about the fund of Kumbo. He says the fund, according to information that he got, his captors handed him to separatist fighters who operate in Bui Division, and they used a road from Baba 1, they're passing through Vekuvi, and Cardinal Tumi is supposed to be in Kumbo. He's frail, according to the divisional officer's account of the issue. He's frail, but we can describe his condition as of now as being stable.
Somebody who's 91 years old, Winston, why should people be so cruel to a 91-year-old person? I was just wondering, Winston.
Well, Edwin, I think everybody in this country is wondering what is really going on. Today we are talking about Cardinal Tumi, 91 years old. Previously we're talking about school children not more than 13 years old. We don't really know whether we are talking about a political struggle for equal rights and justice as we're made to understand. We think that now this whole idea of a struggle has been hijacked by people who are making a lot of money from it, and on the streets, people are saying the money, people in the bushes and people in the offices.
Winston, you just said the fund of Simbinglo might be in Kumbo now, and I know there were so many celebrations, so many preparatory meetings to welcome him back. We saw videos of people welcoming him back in Bamenda, and we thought it was going to be a big ceremony in Kumbo?
Well, as of now, we don't know what the reception was like in Kumbo. We don't know how, in what was the atmosphere of his arrival in Kumbo, capital of BIYA division. It is true that yesterday on their way to Kumbo, around Cow Street, a mammoth crowd came out. It was really difficult for them to move. There was a traffic jam because people wanted to take snapshots, wanted to have some words with Cardinal Toomey and the phone. And we're surprised to hear that they were waylaid around Baba One and taken into captivity by separatist fighters.
Within 1 week, there have been a series of kidnappings, abductions in Kumbo. The 11 teachers of Presidential School Kumbo, we heard they were freed yesterday. Do you confirm?
I can't confirm that news you're giving me. We have a communique from the office of the moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, in which they say 11 teachers were abducted and the children were dispersed and they went home or went away unheard. They condemned the act, saying that there is no need to be depriving the children of their right to education. And the church requested that everybody prays for the teachers, parents, children, and other stakeholders. And the PCC launched a passionate appeal to the perpetrators of what they describe as this unholy act to release the captives. I spoke with an official of the Presbyterian Education Authority Teachers Trade Union, Stephen Afu, who told me that he has heard the rumors of the release of the teachers and he is yet to confirm, and was talking about checking with somebody in Kumbo, one of his colleagues in Kumbo, and I'm still waiting for the feedback.
Before you leave us, Winston, what is the military saying? What is the governor saying? I mean, in the face of all of this, just encouraging students to go back and children to go back to school?
The most recent official pronouncement on the state of affairs from Governor Adolphe Lele-Lafrique was when he chaired the security and administrative coordination meeting in Bamenda, in which he encouraged the parents, teachers, pupils, and students not to be discouraged and not to be frightened, and that his administration has taken measures to step up security around the campus, but would not tell us in detail what those measures are all about. But what we know is that the defense and security forces in the Northwest have been put on red alert.
Well, do you also, I don't know, you are based there, you've been finding out reporting, maybe the reaction has been that way from the separatists because many more children are going back to school this year. We're told about 300,000 in the first day and the numbers were increasing.
They keep increasing by the days. Many schools keep opening their doors. I think the spate of violent attacks on various school campuses in the Northwest and Southwest regions point to the fact that the separatists might have declared their willingness to allow the children to enjoy their right to education. But I think in actuality, they are still bent on carrying on with their school boycott operation. That's what it actually means. And from the recent news we're getting from Northwest and Southwest, they are even determined to kill. So, well, I can't say what, but I'm wondering, just like you said earlier on, I'm wondering where the problem lies, why it's impossible to bring this situation to an end. I don't know what is really happening, but it keeps deteriorating, degenerating from bad to worse, and we are fearing for the worst.
Winston Debga, thanks very much for always being there.
Thank you for always having me on the program.
Thanks. Let's have a break again, and when we come back, we shall have here in the studio Professor Ngolengole Elvis, Anong Jacob, and Tayu Innocent to talk about the 38 years of President Paul Biya's presidency. Twilight on CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzeka.
Au menu décryptage de l'actualité, analyse et commentaires, un plateau riche et alléchant.
Nous allons prendre la direction de la région du
this year are somehow low key when you try to compare this same period.
On sensibilise, nous sommes là, jusqu'à présent on continue à sensibiliser. Ceux qui entrent, on sensibilise. Celui qui va entrer en ville, si on l'arrête, il n'est pas notre risque.
Nos taximans ont profité de cette architecture pour permettre à ce que pouvait être identifié. Le décret de 2016.
You have this picture because this is a star. Vous allez garder aussi ces photos, non?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vous avez mobilisé des acteurs du secteur de la littérature. Pourquoi un réveil si brusque?
Les parents n'amènent même pas toujours les enfants à la vaccination de routine du programme élargi de vaccination.
La radio à Sionto.
Oui,
vous avez Nostalgie Radio à Douala.
CRTV Littoral.
CRTV Littoral FM 105 avec Cyril Bonito. Vous avez fait au tourisme télévisuel.
Le joueur de Coton Sport qui tantôt est milieu de terrain, milieu défensif, milieu offensif.
Et là, j'avais marqué le but d'égalisation. Et après, j'ai fait une passe décisive pour le deuxième but qui nous a envoyé directement au 8e de finale pour la première fois une Coupe du Monde.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Bienvenue à cette édition de CEMAC News. Les institutions financières interconnectées pour une interopérabilité dans les transactions financières en zone CEMAC.
Le 7e contingent du genre, conduit par le colonel Zameyomba Richard, reçoit du plénipotentiaire du chef des forces armées le drapeau des étendards à faire rayonner à la République sœur de Centrafrique.
En prélude à cette édition 2020, le directeur régional UNESCO Afrique centrale, Salah Khaled, a réuni autour d'un échange virtuel jeunes artistes, influenceurs et artistes de la paix. Objectif, préserver la paix.
Recevoir le règlement, d'harmoniser, de faciliter et de clarifier les procédures.
Fini les intermédiaires et la paperasse jusque-là, cauchemar des usagers.
Il ne s'agit plus d'aller dans une espèce de jungle normative. Vous avez un seul instrument qui vous permet de voir plus clair en ce qui concerne les procédures de dédouanement.
Cette infrastructure d'intégration régionale fait partie des projets prioritaires du nouveau partenariat africain pour le développement, NEPAD.
Les prix des produits agricoles exportés par les 6 pays de la zone CEMAC sont en baisse de 7,6% au deuxième trimestre 2020, contre-performance qui peut s'expliquer par les restrictions imposées par la pandémie.
Thanks for watching Twilight on CRTV News. This segment of the program is dedicated to the 38 years of President Paul Biya as President of the Republic of Cameroon. We have Professor Ngolengole Elvis, political scientist and director of the CPD Academy, here with us in the studio. Professor, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moki, and I wish to seize the opportunity to welcome co-panelists, Mayor Tayo and Mr. Anong Jacob.
Thanks for introducing them for me. So Anong Jacob is a political analyst. Anong Jacob, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Moki. Good evening, fellow panelists.
Thank you. And then we also have Tayo Innocent, who is the Deputy Mayor of Nkum, a council in Bui Division of the Northwest Region.
Thank you, Mr. Moki. It's also a pleasure being part of this wonderful panel.
Okay. Now, we're starting with you, Professor Elvis Ngolengole, political scientist, director of CPDM Academy, close collaborator of the head of state, President Paul Biya, and you can name them.
Oh.
People are asking this question, that why should this day be celebrated, be observed?
Well, this day should be celebrated because the New Deal was not a party slogan or a propaganda phrase. The New Deal, is good for us to understand, was a political vision, a political philosophy, a political platform initiated by a new leader who came to the helm of state after more than 22 years of Cameroon being governed by its founding leader. And that during those 22 years, the political, economic, and social system was more or less closed. There were no freedoms, and a lot of things were done in secrecy, and it was more like a dictatorship. And after 22 years, a new leader came in the person of President BIYA, and he came on a political platform or a political program, which was his political vision of how he intended to govern the new society. That political program or political vision was couched in the language that we now are celebrating or commemorating called the New Deal. And for him, the elements or the ingredients of that New Deal political vision or political program were moralization, liberalization, rigor, and modernization. Because in his own political philosophy and his own political vision, having experienced the past 22 years of the way the first president governed the country, he thought Cameroon needed a political, social, and economic transformation, and he began to put that in place. Politically, economically, socially, he began to put the elements of rigor, moralization, liberalization, and modernization in place. And that is a transformation policy package that we have seen in the last 38 years, where we can say that, yes, we still have some problems, but Cameroon has been transformed in the last 38 years, politically, socially, and economically.
And that's the reason they're celebrating?
And that is the reason why we can say we celebrate, because it's still on course. It's still relevant, and it just reminds us that even though it has scored so many successes, we who are the beneficiaries, we who are the citizens of the same country, we have a lot more work to do, and we are willing to continue to do the work.
Prof, let's come to the younger ones who are here. I will now leave you of the CPDM party and also leave the mayor of the CPDM party and talk about an analyst, somebody who may be neutral, Anong Jacob. What do you know about the New Deal, about these policies of rigor, moralization, since you were born to now? Are you witnessing them, living them, experiencing them?
Thank you, Moki. I think that Prof has elaborated on that theoretically. Practically, I, as I think a son to Prof and son to I think to the New Deal, I could only but analyze the New Deal with what I have read and with what I have seen in neighboring countries in my few visits there. For example, in Nigeria, in Ghana, these two English countries where I have made moves there. I think that what we have, as Prof put it, it's a pity to us. As a young Cameroonian that we are, we think that the rigor and moralization should have been seen on the field. We read in history that in the last 20 years before the actual president, you could have people ascending power by merit at very younger ages like 20, 22, 17. I think history in our country have it that we have a duo at one time who climbed to power at about 17, 22 years old. I think that was part of the New Deal. We were expected to see that continuing. We did not witness that. I did not see the previous government. I think it's already a fact that things are not going well. I am over 35 years today. I know only one president. I think it's a pity and a shame, a very fat shame for us as young Cameroonians. We would have wished to see successive changes of power to actually see that New Deal is actually in the move.
Okay.
I am today on the platform speaking with my father, Prof. Father on all aspects in life. Father in academic, father in our African standards, and father in worldview, in civic considerations. we would have wished that at this moment, New Deal would have arranged this country that we all love to see that at this particular moment that we are celebrating Cameroon's almost 66 years of independence, we should have had new breeds, new faces channeling the affairs of the state.
Okay, don't remove everything you have now. Prof is going to answer to you. I saw him taking notes of what you have raised, and he's going to answer. I'll now come to you, Mr. Tayu Innocent, a CPDM supporter and mayor of Nkom, deputy mayor.
Yeah, Mr.
What have you seen, heard, read, and witnessed about the New Deal?
As far as I'm concerned, I think if the New Deal is celebrating 38 years of accession to power, I think it is what we can call celebrating the years of greater achievement. I'm saying so because let me begin from my partner, the other panelist besides me here. He talked of youths not being involved in the government. And if you look at me, I'm a young man. And what we've just witnessed in the last election is that with the coming of decentralization and the sending of the disbursement of powers to councils, to local areas, youths have come up. My council area is made up of young guys as a mayor and deputies, and it's just one out of so many. So you see that the New Deal has is trying, we cannot do all at the same time, trying to disseminate the power back to the youths, to give it so that the youths can take over from where our head of state has maybe reached. So as of now, if he is talking of youths not being involved, I will differ with him a bit. Because if you look at even the last cabinet reshufflement, you see that youths have been, a new impetus has been, is being introduced into in the government. So the New Deal government at least has done quite a lot for us.
Yeah, and Prof, you are taking notes. Let me just hand over to you instead of commenting on this.
Yes.
About the issues he raised.
Yeah, the issue raised by Mr. Anong, they are pertinent, except that when we make these issues, we put them on the table. The fact that the New Deal is a policy package. That means it's a package of several policies in several domains, politically, economically, socially, and that in implementing these policies, there are challenges, there are difficulties, but as human beings that we are, after all, citizens that we are human beings, young, old, men, women, we have to understand that it is government and public agencies that implement some of the policies that are issued, and that we should not, because our emotions, our expectations, our anxieties make us sometimes focus on just some particular or specific issues, forgetting about the bigger picture. For example, Ms. Anong raised the issue of the fact that he thought more youths should have been brought in. For example, he gave the specific example of the fact that he's 35 years old and he knows only one president. I've heard this a lot. But again, you see, what is important is that we have a New Deal. And that New Deal is not only a package that has the ingredients that give us hope that as we move on as a country, as one nation, united in peace, together, there's no doubt that you will live to see another leader. This is just normal. This is a normal process of evolution that it will happen. But if it has not happened yet, it is not because the policy vision or policy package is bad. I don't think that's what is the point. Because that specific issue, I've heard it so much that people forget that by virtue of the fact that we have well adopted democracy, which is part of the democracy in Cameroon, is one of the policy, one of the policies that are in the package of the New Deal. And because we have accepted democracy, that tells you that whether we like it or not, we just have to know that at some point, depending upon what age you are, you're going to see an evolution which will involve what we call in political science alternation. Alternation is not a question of an individual. Alternation is a transformation of several factors, several elements which are in the policy process. But people tend to focus on the fact of just one person, the leader, that leader. That is not what alternation is all about. But the fact that we have accepted democracy, because we don't deny here that we want democracy, we like it, and I think but we must accept, and in an honest way, to say that democracy in Cameroon is an ingredient of the New Deal. Without the New Deal, there wouldn't have been democracy.
Yeah, that's what
because democracy is on course, and if you believe in democracy and you're a Democrat, you have to, in spite of what the point he has made that he's not only one leader in 35 years, if you believe in democracy, and I know you do, you should look forward to the natural process of alternation, which we call evolution, which will involve a leader or other than the one you've known coming up at some point.
You just raised one issue. I want to come to youth. Apparently, the older generation has an impression that the youth complain a lot and they don't act, because Cameroon is a democratic country, and I remember Mr. Bear won with an overwhelming majority in the last elections, and only about 7 million voters, 7 million people registered, and about 3 million voted. Did you vote? Because that transition comes from the ballot, not from the bullet.
Thank you, Moki. Before I answer that, I will wish to say something. I'm very pleased that all of us are, I think we are bona fide Cameroonians, and we emerge from the English subsystem, which I think better understands some concepts in the Commonwealth, which I think I have read and followed up so much. Prof can give us a lot of teachings on that. In the Commonwealth that we belong to, we don't remain with democracy. Democracy is one. The Commonwealth has a driving force which is based on consensual agreements. At a given time in democracy, like Prof says, we understand that it might not heal the goods. All of us can ascertain on this platform that the democratic system that has been put in place is not what all of us are happy of. How many successive changes have taken place? Let's keep the president aside. Take the ministries. You see the same faces, the same names all over, changing from one ministry to another. This year they are coming there. This is a government which is about 38 years old. It's older than me, but it has about 32, by my research that I did before coming here, it has about 32 cabinet reshufflements, which means almost every year we have changes of same people from the onset. It's either that takes them away or they come in. We could not go to vote. We voted. I have been voting. When I arrived the voting age, I was voting from where I come from in southern Cameroon. I was voting my leaders, choosing my persons that I want to channel my political activities in the country. But as a young person, we the young people would believe in practicalities. What obtains is that everything is theoretical. All what is said is theoretical. Most of the youth we find managing some little places within the councils or ministries and all of that, they have been handpicked, because they have answered yes, sir, and down to the whimsies and caprices.
Do you have some proof to what you're saying?
There are so many of them.
If you have proof, somebody other person say you answered yes, sir, too.
Yeah, we have those exhibits.
Okay, now let's move about this, because we're taking about 15 minutes talking about that already. Okay. I think we should talk now about the proofs that you want to see. Okay. He spoke about the package. He said this package involves political issues, economic issues, developmental issues, and that's what I'm bringing you in, Mr. Mayor. Yes. When you look at the development of Cameroon since 1982, what do you have as those salient issues that you can prove that Mr. Paul Biya did, that the president of your party did? Okay, thank you, Mr. Moki. If you look at this 38 years in power, you would see that there has been a lot of improvement, a lot of development. First of all, education. We have had a number of schools in almost everywhere around the national territory. Look at health. A lot has been improved. You go to infrastructural development. You look at the housing program. You look at the sports infrastructure. International competitions. You look at the roads. The roads have had a remarkable progress, not to talk of employment.
Though some people may say the rate of employment is still high, but he has stepped it up. Let me just quote an example. The recruitment of teachers. Then you look at agriculture. I mean, it has been stepped up to another level. So we cannot, and then the most important thing which Prof did mention, you cannot talk of democracy or let me say, yes, democracy without talking about the New Deal government. Because it introduced democracy, and that's the more reason why in the 90s there was a need for the introduction of multipartyism, and it resurfaced. Because the head of state discovered that in order to really lead this country to the level at which, to evolve with the changing times, the democracy came and multipartyism followed too. So I think, just like I did mention before, if we are celebrating 38 years today, as this ruling party is, the CPDM, our party, is celebrating today, we are celebrating 38 years of greater achievement, though everything cannot be achieved within the...
Professor, you have listened to them keenly, and the young man, Anon Jacob, still stands the point that a lot still has to be done, that much is done, not in practice, but in theory.
No, I mean, in practice, you can see it doesn't matter what domain you take. Mr. Tayu has just mentioned practically the domains where a lot of transformation has taken place. There's no theory about that. I mean, democracy is not a theory. This is happening, and we know what the elements of theory are. One of the main elements of democracy are. One of the main elements of democracy is freedom. What we are doing on this set, the fact that you have this program is a practical example of you can see how booming the democracy is in Cameroon, because we are here with Mr. Anong. He's expressing himself freely, and I think I'm one of those who will make sure that that freedom rests and that he enjoys that freedom. And I don't see why. I mean, before the New Deal, that didn't exist, as you know. No program such as this could have happened before the New Deal. So we have to know that the New Deal as a policy vision or a policy package enabled us to do lots of achievements, as Mr. Tayo just said earlier, and a lot still has to be done because we are honest people. We have the same background. We are humble enough and honest to say we still have a lot to do. So for those who have some issues that are specific, it doesn't matter how specific they are and in what domain, we are honest enough to say we still have a lot to do. And we are not naive we are not boastful to say that because a lot has been done or that nothing else has to be done. I think that the author of the New Deal himself, the President of the Republic, he will be the first to tell you that even though a lot has been done, he is still willing to do a lot more, and we have the duty to join him to do a lot more, no matter how specific and in what domain. From what I know, if there are any challenges in the New Deal, those challenges I always link them to just three. One,
I think can we hold on with the challenges and come back to it at the end of it?
Okay.
I want us to look at this now, and some of the words that the President of the Republic used: rigor and moralization.
Yes.
That's where we should be judging him.
Yes.
But Professor Ngolengole Elvis, people have an impression that Cameroon is becoming more corrupt as the years go by, and that the New Deal government is doing less to battle this corruption.
The proof is that before the New Deal, there was corruption. Everyone knew about it, but no one had the freedom nor the courage to even talk about it or criticize, not to talk of indicate or point fingers. But we should be proud that the mere fact that with the New Deal, we have the freedom and the courage to point it out that here is corruption and so forth. That's already a good thing. In other words, it doesn't mean that corruption started with the New Deal. The New Deal was initiated in order to put to rest some of the evils such as corruption. So those who have the impression that there's more corruption, it is because they are free and they see it and they have the freedom and the courage to talk about it. They tend to ignore the fact that before, No one had the courage nor the freedom to talk about it, but they also ignore the fact that because it is the New Deal and because the author insists on the ingredient of rigor and moralization, he's already taken policy measures to fight it. We all know these policy measures. One, lots of people have been arrested and some have been prosecuted and they are jailed. There are institutions that have been set up such as CONAC and financial crimes agencies, ANIC, and others, which are working every day. Intelligence officials and services are at work doing this to make sure that, to remind us, there are different agencies, public agencies, that are carrying out refresher courses, educational programs, all kinds of recycling programs to teach people that it doesn't pay when you are in the public service or in the public sector to be corrupt, because corruption is against the purposes and the principles of the New Deal. But it doesn't mean that the New Deal is there to say corruption is finished. The New Deal recognizes that as human beings, some of us have not yet realized that the New Deal is a serious thing, it's a practical policy vision, and that practical behavior change has to take place. Practical mindsets have to change.
That at 38 years, people have not realized this. When are they going to realize
Some
it?
people are hard-headed, and that's why some people continue to be put in
jail.
arrested
Now,
and be put in jail.
I want to ask you, Mr.
Anon,
what do you think should be done to foster this fight against corruption? That is one of the foundations of the New Deal government.
Exactly. We have to be very practical. We have to be very, very practical. It starts with liberating the institutions in place. When I do my cross-reading about the institutions we have in our country with the institutions nearby our countries, like in Nigeria, I say I deal more with Nigeria and Ghana, for example, I have the impression that we have rooms in a parlor that one person commands them. For example, the judiciary seems not to be very free. The legislative seems not to be very free. If bills don't come from the presidency, no other bill comes from anywhere in our parliament. The judiciary, the different departments within the judiciary bench, like the control, the supreme state control, they do their findings and have everything. They have to submit it to the presidency for the presidency to give their verdicts and go ahead for sanctions to be made and all of that. So I think that if we liberate the institutions where nobody has command to interfere in the others, I still say theoretically they seem free. Prof will say that the democracy in our country shows that we have those institutions and they are functioning. It's not the president of the republic who is the head of the judiciary. It's not the president of the republic who is the head of the parliament. There are individuals there, but they are not free. They wait for orders to be given by the presidents of the republic before actions are taken.
I think we received a delegation from CONAC here, and they actually told us that within the past 10 years, they have recovered about 126 billion directly from people. They did not wait for the president to recover that money.
Exactly, Moki. What we are saying is that we don't see this on the field. We don't get them on the field. Let me give an example. We expected to have seen that this CONAC, they get this money back. Let Cameroonians know it, see it. Let us know that, okay, by 1982, when President Paul Biya was taken over power, we had 7 routes. Of how many population? What was the population then? It was about 4 or 5 million people. Today, how many do we have? That has come independently from what they have fought. Corruption has gone and solved this. This money that these guys stole and brought in, it has been used. Let me use this practical example that we have. There are some famous buildings here in Yaoundé without me even mentioning names. I think we have to give credit to a bit for the fight against corruption. We are saying that the fight is not enough. It's not enough, and it's not near enough. They have to step it up. Those buildings are still there. The state is not using them. It seems somebody would think that there were some political settlements that they had to send somebody off the rail so that it shows that some work is done. Why has the state not put these buildings in use? Okay. The state still pays enormous amount, exorbitant amounts for buildings, whereas the state has buildings that people stole public funds and put them under their names. Okay. The state is not getting these buildings.
Besides, that's why it's on the issue of moralization and rigor, and I'm coming to you now, Mr. Tayu. Apparently, what is happening is that everybody is blaming the president and institutions, forgetting that little rats can finish a bag of granules in seconds. I've gone to the markets, I've seen young people who manipulate the scale, and you buy grams of meat, they tell you and so on. Should the moral revolution not start from you, the young people, while waiting for the older generation to maybe give you the position?
Ms. Moki, you are very, very correct. When you look at, there is a common saying in English that once you point somebody with a finger, the remaining four goes back to you. And it is absolutely very clear. The corruption begins right from our homes. It starts from our homes. And when we now talk of rigor and that moralization, it stems back from right to our houses, that the parents should start molding the children to stem from those things. Because once you are a parent and you start pointing a hand on hierarchy, you are forgetting your own primordial role, that before a child starts going to school, maybe from the primary level, that morale, you are supposed to start molding that child right from back home. And once you ignore it and begin to look at the hierarchy, that child is growing. And the child will join the system you have been pointing a hand to. And so the chain of corruption continues.
Yeah, yes.
I wish to ask my brother Tayo that when a house has a leakage, where do we start blocking it? I think it's from the top. Then we come now inside and see what has been destroyed and all that, we arrange them. We are saying in plain terms, in all honesty, the youth should be given a chance. The youth should be given a chance. It is unheard of at this time, in this generation, the 21st century, that I think we expected somebody like Prof is a father. We should be doing the work. And then Prof now say, okay, do like this, like the coach behind. We do the work. Look at what happens in other countries. The youth should be at the forefront. Let our president come and coach us.
Who is the youth to you in this issue?
I would not want to use civil status and all of that. Youth should be youth to me should be those who still have sound minds, who are still very active, energetic, and who have the qualities that it takes to deliver what
you don't
has to be done.
dismiss the fact that somebody at 80, 90 can be a youth.
No,
that should not be a youth. Let us now, we have barely 7 minutes to be together, and Professor Ngole started talking about challenges, and he said there were 3 of them. 3 main challenges you have. Professor, you have 3 minutes for the 3 challenges.
Yes, Mr. Tayo just mentioned about one of them, but I would say 3 challenges. The first is that when the New Deal policy package was initiated, sure, everybody was excited and everybody thought, wow, Cameroon is meant for transformation and is going to be transformed. But you know, in policy processes, there is no magic. It is human beings like you and I doing things, and as animals that we are, sometimes the speeds, the rhythms are different. And so one of the challenges that this new policy package faced was that there were Cameroonians who were used to a particular kind of mindset and our mentalities. And these mindsets, with the ushering in and initiation of the New Deal, this mindset needed to be worked on. And Mr. Tayo mentioned some. That when you initiate a policy process in place through your vision, your policy vision, that means you must talk to the minds of people, a mentality. And which people? Not just your ministers, your government and so forth, but also the ordinary person, the person in a village and so forth who is bringing up his child. By the time that person in village in Tatum or something is bringing up that child will one day end up in Yaoundé or in Douala or somewhere or in Garoua, working either for the state or in the private sector. If that child is not brought up in the value systems of the New Deal, the expectations of the New Deal, the norms of the New Deal, the principles of the New Deal, that child is likely to miss the point. So you have this group of people who are resistant.
Prof, you have 1 minute.
The second challenge is those who accepted the New Deal, understood it, but took advantage of it or wanted to take advantage of it in order to exploit it for their own personal and selfish ends. And the third challenge is the global context, the international context. It's good that we all know that as Africans that we are, there's nothing you do, no matter how intelligent you are in your country, which is not affected by or impacted by or influenced by the international environment around you. The international environment in Africa or around Africa or in has been very harsh. And African countries have had to go through lots of difficulties in order to be able to, economic difficulties, financial difficulties, you know, all the crises that we've gone through, monetary
health difficulties.
Very difficult.
Now, Mr. Anong, let us come back to what is directly concerning us now. Before we started this program, you saw what happened in the Northwest with the abduction of the Cardinal, the founder of, so that is the crisis Cameroon is facing in the far north region, in the east, and then in the northwest and southwest. It's a deep challenge. What do you think about that? What is your take on that?
Actually, it's really a serious challenge for us all. We are begging those who are concerned to be honest with themselves that we don't deserve that. Cameroon is a unique country, that we are so unique that we don't deserve that. We pride the place of peace in Africa. We pride the place of Christians and Muslims living peacefully together. We pride the place of the two internationally recognized languages, English and French, peacefully living together. Moki, to be honest with you, all of these things that are happening now, you just quoted the east, the far north, and the northwest and southwest region. It is the balance sheet of this aging regime, this aging government that we do not, they don't yet meet, meet again with the test of time. It could be sporadic reactions for people to say that, okay, it is enough. The theories are just so much. Let things be practical. We don't have roads, we don't have schools, we don't have hospitals, but we talk about the New Deal has a package, making Cameroon to be good and all of that. We need change, practical change. Those things will disappear.
And you, sir? Maybe, I'm sorry, you have 1 minute 30 seconds.
Thank you, sir. I think to me the transition is taking a slow pace, but for me it's an advantage. Let me explain myself. If we have somebody like Prof seated with us today, I mean, some of us as youths that are coming up now strong to take in the process of administration, we are tapping a lot from him. It is something that the transition needs to be slow, gentle, but I mean sure. So much so that the youths that are coming up, we pick up from what has not been done. I mean, to step up to another level. We are not refusing the fact that there are still challenges. The education at the educational level, infrastructure and all whatnot. But the youth still need the aging people. The transition is slowly but surely. So that is all that I can say.
Okay, then, Prof?
Yes, the advice we give to the youth is that they should be realistic, they should be hopeful, and they should be thankful that we have a New Deal, because with that New Deal, they don't need to go to the bushes. With the New Deal, they don't need to kill children in Kumba or take children hostage in Kumbo or in Bamenda. They don't need that. Because with the New Deal, the way is open for them to criticize, for them to revindicate, for them to demand, and for that transformation or that change that he wants to be accelerated. Without the New Deal, it makes it difficult for them to be able to achieve what they hope to achieve or to achieve their expectations. But with the New Deal, the door is open for that to happen. And I hope that with this sort of discussion today, and that they will be able to tell their friends who have decided to become extremists, for example, and take up arms against innocent people and children and so forth, that they don't need that. Rather, the New Deal is the best arm, the best solution, the best key for them to achieve all that the youths of Cameroon need to achieve for a better future.
I want to thank you very much, Professor Elvis Ngole, political scientist, director of the CPDM Academy, for coming. Anong Jacob, political analyst, thanks very much for coming, sir. We look forward to seeing your many more programs on CRTV News. And Tayo Innocent, the Deputy Mayor of Nkum, thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure, sir.
It is exactly 7 o'clock in Yaoundé, and it's news time in the French language with Laurence Okalia. Bonsoir, Laurence. C'est l'heure du journal.
C'est le journal. Ouvrons ce journal avec cette information plutôt rafraîchissante. Le cardinal émérite Christian Toumi, libéré. Il a été enlevé hier aux environs de 18h30 sur la route de Kumbo, dans la région du Nord-Ouest. Il était en compagnie du chef traditionnel de Nso, Sa Majesté Nsembinglo, qui est toujours porté disparu. Ces deux derniers et une dizaine d'autres personnes ont été kidnappées à Babessi, dans le Nord-Ouest. Personne n'a jusqu'ici revendiqué cet acte, mais les suspicions sont portées sur le groupe séparatiste. Autre chose dans ce journal, 6 novembre 1982, 6 novembre 2020, 38 ans que le président Paul Biya a accédé à la magistrature suprême, ouvrant ainsi une nouvelle page dans l'histoire du Cameroun. Lorsqu'il prêtait serment pour la première fois, il axe son action sur la démocratisation de la vie politique, la libéralisation de la vie sociale et économique et bien d'œuvres encore. Évocation du 6 novembre, Nadège Mbaïma.
Notre système démocratique s'enracine.
Éclairé par son ouvrage pour le libéralisme communautaire qu'il publie en 1987, Paul Biya, l'homme du renouveau, va ouvrir la scène politique camerounaise au multipartisme. Sous son impulsion, une série de lois sur les libertés sont adoptées par l'Assemblée nationale. Et après l'élection de 1984, poursuivre l'œuvre de construction nationale. Avant le 6 novembre 1982, le Cameroun ne comptait que 2 barrages hydroélectriques. Le premier, inauguré le 5 février 1954, fut bâti sur le fleuve Sanaga à Edea. Le deuxième érigé, 55 km en amont d'Edea, à Son-Lolo, la centrale à fioul de Dibamba, près de Douala, va prendre le relais. Elle est opérationnelle depuis 2009. Le barrage réservoir de Lompangar d'une capacité de 6 milliards de mètres cubes d'eau. Le barrage hydroélectrique de Menveleux, le barrage hydroélectrique de Mekine, la centrale à gaz de Kribi, associée à une ligne de transport d'énergie de 225 kV. Outre la construction de nouveaux ouvrages, un vaste chantier d'infrastructures routières et portuaires est engagé. Plusieurs kilomètres de routes reliant tantôt le Cameroun à la Centrafrique, tantôt au Congo, quand ce ne sont pas les villes qui sont reliées entre elles. La construction de l'autoroute Yaoundé-Douala, longue de 196 km, suscite actuellement beaucoup d'espoir. Le port autonome de Douala est rénové, le port en eau profonde de Kribi inauguré, le port en eau profonde de Limbe estimé à plus de 400 milliards de francs CFA en cours. Le Cameroun moderne est en marche. D'autre part, le premier sportif camerounais se mettra aux côtés de tous les sports confondus. Des infrastructures sportives seront soit rénovées, Garoua Douala, avec le stade de la réunification, ou tout simplement reconstruites. Au Limbe, à Yaoundé et Japoma à Douala. Au cours du seul septennat finissant, le président Paul Biya a poursuivi son œuvre d'édification des universités camerounaises et à la création de plusieurs établissements dans les 8 universités publiques du Cameroun.
Et le fameux Aïdous au souhait prescrit par la Constitution lorsqu'il prêtait serment pour la première fois a ouvert la voie à plusieurs autres expressions dont il est l'auteur. Apprenti sorcier, me voici donc à Douala ou encore rendez-vous dans 20 ans. L'homme qui parle peu mais dit tout. Etienne Skal Azegue.
En 38 ans de magistrature suprême, le président de la République est auteur des déclarations et expressions devenues cultes. Le registre politique est celui qui retient le plus d'attention.
Quand il a prononcé la phrase « les apprentis sorciers », bon, en fait, quand il a dit « les apprentis sorciers », ce n'était pas pour insulter les compatriotes, mais c'était pour les amener à comprendre la nécessité de promouvoir la paix.
Quand il est allé à Douala, il a dit « me voici à Douala, me voici donc à Douala ». Et c'était très profond parce qu'il y avait une très grande crise qui secouait le pays et on nous faisait entendre que lui il ne va pas arriver à Douala. Il est arrivé à Douala avec des messages forts.
C'est les petits partis politiques. Comme il dit bien, les petits partis politiques, il y a eu beaucoup de désordres et ce sont les petits partis qui ne peuvent pas faire bouger le RDPC.
Le chef de l'État a également fait des sorties remarquables dans le domaine sportif.
Un seul mot, continuer. C'est des paroles très encourageantes. Moi, à chaque fois que je me lasse sur quoi que ce soit, je me rappelle chaque fois de ces mots-là aussi. Un seul mot, continuer.
La liste est loin d'être exhaustive. Notons néanmoins que c'est 6 novembre, tant que Yaoundé respire, le Cameroun vit.
En culture, le festival des écrans noirs bat son plein au Palais polyvalent des sports de Yaoundé. Parmi les divers programmes journaliers, notamment les projections cinématographiques, il y a les forats des cinéastes organisés par le réalisateur Narcisse Wandji. La séance de travail qui s'est ouverte hier a vu la participation de plusieurs cinéastes et je vous propose d'en écouter quelques-uns au micro d'Amina Abiba.
Pour organiser le métier, parce qu'il y a une confusion où dès que quelqu'un est figurant dans un film, il se dit cinéaste, ou dès que quelqu'un a filmé peut-être une web série, il se dit cinéaste. Donc si vous nous avez vu travailler, on est en train d'organiser le métier pour définir des critères de qualification dans tous les secteurs, dans tous les petits métiers du cinéma.
Le défi, il se trouve partout. Il se trouve au niveau de l'écriture, il se trouve au niveau de la recherche du financement, il se trouve au niveau de la distribution, il se trouve au niveau déjà au préalable même de la formation. Et donc il y a des défis à tous les niveaux qu'il faut relever, n'est-ce pas? C'est à la fois des défis particuliers sectoriels, mais c'est aussi un défi général et global.
Être réalisateur de cinéma comme il le faut, c'est un métier qui s'apprend longuement et patiemment. Ne deviens pas réalisateur qui veut, mais qui peut. Il faut être formé soit par une école spécialisée dans l'enseignement cinématographique, ou alors apprendre dans l'État, comme disent certains.
En sport, la Fédération camerounaise de cyclisme donne un grand coup de pédale à la 20e édition du Grand Prix Chantal BIYA. La compétition débute le 18 novembre prochain. 10 équipes sont invitées avec 60 coureurs attendus. Près de 685 km et demi à avaler en 5 étapes. Déby Kembe.
Déjà reporté en 2020 par l'Union internationale de cyclistes, le Grand Prix Chantal BIYA croise les doigts pour que cette fois, le virus ne lui mette pas les bâtons dans les roues. 5 étapes avec un critérium. Prévu à Douala, ce dernier constitue les premiers coups de pédale avec 95 km. La deuxième étape à Konolinga à Bongbang s'étend sur 139 km et demi. L'axe centre-sud Yaoundé-Bolova prend le plus long parcours, 167 km. Considérée comme l'étape reine de la compétition, Zwetele Nkbang Beyome Sala s'annonce être aussi la plus difficile. Favorable aux grimpeurs, ceux-ci pourront se démarquer du peloton sur la côte à l'arrivée. Les 60 coureurs finiront leur course entre Sank-Melima et Yaoundé, 166 km presque plat. En tout, 685,3 km en une semaine sans paniquer pour des muscles habitués.
Allons prendre les nouvelles de l'étranger, notamment aux États-Unis où les yeux sont braqués sur la présidentielle. Les citoyens américains ont choisi qui de Donald Biden occupera le bureau ovale en janvier. Le dépouillement se poursuit dans quelques États encore et nous faisons le point avec Adèle Sylviane Kalga.
Les premiers résultats de l'élection présidentielle aux États-Unis donnent une avance presque décisive à Joe Biden sur Donald Trump, mais les décomptes dans certains États se poursuivaient encore ce matin. Les yeux sont donc rivés sur 5 États clés. Il s'agit de l'Arizona, la Géorgie, le Nevada, la Pennsylvanie et la Caroline du Nord. Dans l'État de Géorgie, 16 grands électeurs sont en jeu. 94% des votes ont été comptabilisés dans cet État du Sud-Ouest qui vote traditionnellement républicain. Donald Trump y a fait la course en tête depuis mardi soir, mais son avance s'est réduite. 20 grands électeurs comptent dans l'État de Pennsylvanie. Le président américain Donald Trump y comptait toujours une avance relativement confortable mercredi soir, soit 51,4% contre 47,3% pour Joe Biden. La Caroline du Sud compte 15 grands électeurs. 95% des votes ont déjà été comptabilisés. Des irrégularités, des fraudes ont été dénoncées lors de cette élection présidentielle. Donald Trump a donc engagé mercredi 3 offensives judiciaires. Son équipe de campagne demande un recomptage des voix dans le Wisconsin et un arrêt du décompte des votes dans le Michigan et en Pennsylvanie.
Voilà donc qui met un terme à ce bulletin d'information. Merci de nous avoir suivis. Je vous laisse en compagnie de Edwin Moki Kinzeka pour Twilight.
Thanks, Lorenzo Kalia.
You're welcome.
And we're ending the program now because we're going to be having a special news with our colleagues of the film festival, the Grand Noir, that is taking place in Cameroon's capital city, Yaoundé. But just to say, the program today examined the 38 years of President Paul Biya's presidency that is celebrated today throughout the national territory. It is on the November 6, 1982, that President Paul Biya rose to the highest office in the land. We had Professor Elvis Ngole, who is political scientist and director of the CPDM Academy, here with us in the studio. Anon Jacob, a political analyst, was also here with Tayu Innocent, who is Deputy Mayor of Kum in the northwest region of the country. We got Winston Lebgen Bamenda to talk about the situation of Christian Kanatumi, who was abducted last evening and was released today, but the whereabouts of the Fonam Simbinglo is not yet known. He was abducted also in the company of Kanatumi and 10 others. That's where we end this edition of Twilight on CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzaka in Yaoundé. Thank you for watching.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.